Hi everyone, I'm Reed-Enever. Welcome back to another Business Skills webinar. Business Skills webinars are where we bring to you some latest information, some latest technology, and some latest skills to help you with your business. This week we're being joined by the founder of MISSINGLETTR, Benjamin Dell, and he is here to show us how we can take the all-important blog posts we are crafting and make the most of them for our business. So Ben, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Pleasure being here.
Awesome. So what are you going to show us today? You've been a marketer as long as I have, and
yeah. So what I'm going to do is just we're going to start off with the basics, as with anything that's worth learning. I suppose we've got to base it and ground it on some basic concepts and common knowledge that can help us get the most out of our blog posts. So whether you use a tool like MISSINGLETTR or not, there's a huge amount of opportunity left on the table often by people who publish their blog posts.
Yep.
And so we're going to look at what those mistakes are, what people are doing that they perhaps shouldn't be, and then what you can do to do more than the majority to really help drive traffic back to your website, which is really what it's all about. That's why we're blogging. That's why we use content marketing.
Fantastic. There is one of the big things. Now, guys, so I was telling Ben a little bit earlier that we have a couple of 32-week marketing, sorry, not 32-week, 30-day blogging challenge members in here. God, far out, 52-week marketing
very
challenge.
specific 32 weeks.
I don't want to go through 32 weeks of blogging challenge right now. I've got enough on my plate. But we have got some 30-day blogging challenge members in here. Now, what the challenge members have been doing is they've been given 5 different topics a day to look at, and they are challenged to write a blog post at least one a week and send it into my team and I to review. So this morning's Facebook Live in that one was actually, well, now you've written post from week 1, what do you do with it? So I think it works in really, really well.
Perfect timing.
We didn't plan this, did we? You walked in, it all worked out well.
Well, you may have. I certainly didn't. But yeah, but that's perfect timing.
It is perfect
and actually,
timing.
The good news there is that what you're talking about there, the discipline of or trying to encourage people to actually write valuable long-form content, with those topics each day. I mean, the good news is that's the hard work. Coming up with the actual original content. That's the bit where you should be putting some effort into, because that's your USP. That's your opportunity to get across your brand personality, your knowledge, your domain expertise, your understanding of the industry. So Linda's definitely doing it the right way. I mean, you want to invest a good amount of time into writing that content. You can't rush that part, for sure.
No. I'm just putting a message up into the group and that sort of stuff. But Ben, you've got some slides to show us. Why don't we get underway, and I will just put the messages up about the technical glitches that seems to be hitting this house today and this office, and let people know that we will have a webinar replay coming out soon later. But Ben's got some tips to share with you all. So do grab a notepad and paper, guys, if you haven't got one, and get ready to take those notes down so that you can make the most out of the webinar. If you've got questions, do ask them as we go along. Ben and I are happy to answer them and happy to help you make the most out of your blogging. But this is today in particular, what I want everyone to focus on is the blogs that you've put all the work into, and even think about the ones that you've actually put all the work into this time last year, but are evergreen and could be shared right now, because it's about repurposing that content and not having to reinvent the wheel all over again.
Totally. So, as I load up my screen, as a reminder, MISSINGLETTR is one of those trendy marketing automation tools. And what I mean by that is that it's something that can automate a part of your business, but just because it can doesn't mean you should. And so it's really important that we understand why and what we're trying to automate first before we then go ahead and do the automating part, because in this day and age there are so many automation tools out there that it's almost too easy to start automating bits of your business. So with any time asks, what should I be doing, how should I be doing it, what's the best strategy, I always like to come to go straight back to basics so that we can build up from there and actually understand which parts of that workflow are the parts that we should even be considering to automate. And, once we've understood that, then you might want to use MISSINGLETTR to help you automate those parts, but you might not want to. And there are other options as well. So it's really important to start from that point.
MISSINGLETR is one of the tools that I use to automate our business.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, precisely. Yeah. I mean, we obviously we only sort of focus in on the part where you've published a blog post and you want to get additional traffic and value from that content. But even there, you've got to make sure you're using the tool in the right way. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from the basics. As I said, we're going to get some common sense stuff coming out here. We're going to look at what's some of the mistakes that people are making at the moment, and the sorts of things that we can do quite quickly to come up with a plan and a strategy around each blog post that we publish. And as Linda mentioned before, what we can also do with blog posts that we've published way into the past, assuming they're evergreen in nature. And we'll touch on what evergreen means in a minute as well, just in case we need a bit of a refresh on that. And that will lead us into we'll do a bit of a demo, Linda, if that's all right at the end. Just a quick walkthrough of what does a missing letter campaign look like, and what are some of the most important things you might want to do the first time you start using our tool, so that by the end of it, you know why you should be doing things. We'll look at what those things are in a minute with each of your blog posts, and what we can do to actually drive traffic back to them, and why MISSINGLETR and how MISSINGLETR can help you do that. So it's probably going to half an hour. And I've got the chat open as well. Linda, I assume that the Zoom chat window is all we've got now. We haven't got anything from Facebook.
No, we haven't got any Facebook chat. And anyway, everyone knows that if they want to ask questions, they have to be here.
Perfecto. Okay, cool. So I'm going to keep it open in my other window.
And it's 2 o'clock in the morning for you.
It is, yes. So a bit of housekeeping first. It's very early in the morning here, so I've got my dog in the office with me. So if you hear a big bark, I'm going to have to address it and let her out. It's real life, but there we go. Hopefully she'll.
This is international business.
Hopefully she'll keep on the floor chewing her little toy that she has there. It's not a squeaky one, so we're safe for that.
Ah, beautiful.
Okay.
Well, you know Patty from Think If It brings Mimi on. We actually see Mimi in webinars. Yep.
Mimi, I like that. Mine's called Evie.
Evie.
Similar, similar sound and probably similar number of letters, actually. I like the synchronicity there. Okay, so. I do apologise, guys. I haven't once run this through as an actual presentation, so give me 2 seconds. It's
all good.
Normally have this as a PDF. It's trying to. Okay, I'm going to keep the screen like that actually, because it's trying to animate every single line, and that's going to get quite tedious quickly. So let's not put you through that. Least of all me at 2 in the morning. So
okay, so today.
There is definitely something going on with the tech gods.
Yep. Tech gods are not liking us.
Okay, so why are we here in the first place? I mean, we're here because as a business, particularly with an online presence, and most of our businesses these days have an online presence, and in most cases are delivered through online mediums as well. It all lives and dies on traffic, and one of the most effective ways of getting traffic in terms of cost and time is content marketing. And content marketing is essentially content that is written, so blog posts, it could be webinars, it could be ebooks, long form content that is designed to engage with your audience and drive them back to your site as a marketing magnet. You can kind of think like that. And it really is the most effective marketing tool that we have at our disposal when you just look at bang for buck and the value that you can get from it. So it's something that we should be doing, and if we're not, we should be. Now, for those watching this, pretty much I know that you are, because you're doing this wonderful blogging challenge with Linda. So you've already started the process of thinking about how content marketing can be aligned with your wider marketing strategy. But it's not all rosy, because although an astonishing, actually, 91% of businesses use content marketing, a huge 70% are basically dissatisfied with the results. They're not quite seeing the effectiveness that they thought they were going to be getting when they first subscribed to this, because we're all told, it's that snowball effect. When you start blogging, you're going to start getting huge amounts of traffic coming through, and that's fine. And in a lot of cases you do. But it takes time, and
work.
It takes thought. It works. It does. Yeah, and there is never. So tip number one, or reality check number one, I should say. There is no silver bullets. There never is. So work is always required.
Well, can I steal that for my presentation?
Marketing strategies. Which bit?
I've just been booked for a real version of marketing. I'm just going to call it no silver bullet, and then that'll work.
Yeah, because you can have that one.
Yeah, I'm going to steal that one.
And there genuinely isn't. There is no silver bullet, and what I mean by that is that at some point you are going to have to put work in, and that's really what I suspect Linda's trying to sort of train you to sort of think about with regards to blogging, because by coming up with this daily challenge around a particular topic, it's training your mind to think about getting to the habit about writing that content in the first place. Because writing that long form content, writing that blog post, that is where the work is required with regards to content marketing. That's the part that you can't escape. You might outsource it, but then you've got quality potential issues, which is fine. You can get some high quality, but then work needs to be put into reviewing the content and maybe lining up the topics for your writers to write. So it's still work, it's just shifted slightly. Or you might want to write it internally. And again, that's work, because you've got to make sure that you're researching it properly, again, which is why Linda's come up with the concept of topics each day, which kind of takes that thinking out of the equation a little bit. But when it comes down to it, you've still got to write that content.
Exactly.
And that's good. You don't want to rush this part.
You've got to do it.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure there's a phrase there about horses, but I always forget what it is, and so I'm not going to go there. Something about horses to water or something.
Well, good.
There we go. But that's good. We want that actually to be the bit that takes time, because that's your value add opportunity. That's your opportunity to really get across to your audience that you know what you're talking about, that you are a trusted player or entity within your niche or your space or your industry, however you sort of slice it up. It's your opportunity to show that you are a thought leader, that you have knowledge to dispense. So this is really, really powerful stuff, and this is why content marketing works really, really effectively. But crucially, the mistake that people often make is that they think, I've done that hard work, I've written the long form blog post, therefore the work is done, and it's high value, it's well written, it's well researched. People are now going to come and just view it and share it, and we're going to get that social effect, and done. I can move on to the next blog post. And that's unfortunately not the case. It's really what we do after writing the blog post that really makes the difference. So although the most amount of time and effort should be put into writing that content in terms of researching and everything else I mentioned, it's the strategy that we pin afterwards that really, really does make the difference. And that's what we're going to look at over the next few slides. And crucially, that's the part of the journey or the part of the strategy that Missing Letter can help you with.
Yep, exactly. And guys, you don't build it. There is a saying that if you build it, they will come, but they only come if you market it and they know that it's out there. And the only way that they can know it's out there is by taking the action to market your blog post after you've written it.
Totally. I mean, I've had, fledgling startups in the past, failed, succeeded, everything in between. And the very first ones, which definitely did fail, pretty much failed because I had that same mentality with startups, which was, I've got a great idea, I've built it, or my team have built it. They will, of course, they're going to come now. Of course, they'd be stupid not to. We're creating something that's solving their pain. And again, you need a strategy that's going to help you get that product out into the marketplace. And you can kind of think of your blog posts as mini little businesses, that have little jobs to do. That their job is to inform, to educate, to attract, and to ultimately convert, whether that's building your brand, subscribing to your list on your website, or just purchasing your products, whatever that is. So with that said and done, what is the actual goal here? What is the sort of the high level strategy that we need to be thinking about for every blog post that we've published? And really, with any strategy, before we get into the weeds, we've got to make sure that, certainly in my opinion, that it's simple and repeatable. And those two things go hand in hand. If it's neither one of those two, you're always going to fail, in my opinion. One of those, you might succeed, but it's hard work, so why bother? So simple, we need it simple because we're human, we're built on habits, and we need those habits to serve us. If it's simple, we're going to hopefully feel incentivized to do it each day. So back to Linda's topics each day, breaking it down into simple chunks. It's easy to understand. It's easy to come back to. And the repeatable part, funny, I'm seeing how this ties in with your blogging challenge. Really, this is nice. So this is completely unpacked.
It's going really well. Next time I'll actually my hand and we'll actually book you in to come and speak properly.
But the repeatable aspect is super important too, because it's pointless coming up with a really, really simple, well thought out strategy that you do once, because what's the point of that? You've got to make sure that you build that healthy habit and you come up with something that can be repeated and that is therefore repeated as well. And particularly when it comes down to marketing, the repeatable aspect is very, very pertinent, because pretty much any marketing strategy lives and dies by its consistency. There's no point coming up with brand guidelines and vision and writing style and ethos and all that sort of stuff and agreeing all those things internally, but then doing that once for one marketing output and then sort of coming up with a completely different approach for another one. So we've got to be consistent and repeatable in what we do. So with the blog posts that we publish, with those simple and repeatable tenets in mind, there's a formula of 3 things that I like to sort of get our guys to sort of look at. Number 1, write the great evergreen content in the first place. So a high value blog post. Make sure that bit is done right. It's the most important thing. 2, come up with some optimized social content. So what I mean by that is we want to slice up and dice up our blog post and turn it into bite-sized bits of social content. So we might take the title, we might take an extract of the quote, we might include some images, we might create some images as well. We want to create lots of different permutations of that, ironically not repeated, because in the new world of Twitter, they actually don't like that.
Repeated. Exactly.
They actually don't. So there's always an exception to the rule. Let's say that. But that's for spamming reasons. So what we want to do is we want to create the optimized social content for each blog post, and we want to create enough that's going to last us for a longish period of time. And I say longish because it always varies, but generally speaking, 12 months is good. And so, and again, we don't want too much in that time. So it will vary from case to case and from audience to audience. But let's just say 9, 10, or 12, that sort of number of tweets or Facebook posts, whatever it might be, within that 12-month period. So we've now got a set of social content that is ready to go. We're creating that for each blog post. And then what we're going to do is drip that out gradually over that 12-month period to our social audience. And the principle there is that we are essentially engaging with our audience gradually over time and deriving as much value from each blog post as we can. Crucially, at the bottom of that slide, as you can see there, repeat. So for each blog post, we're going to do that same thing. So that's really, really high level. And this is the bit that Missing Letter does. So we'll look at specifically how it does that and what it lets you do. But on a very, very high level, that's kind of what we want to be doing. Yeah. That's the most basic of strategies we want to be doing with each blog post. Create the social content, drip it out gradually, and get as much value from those blog posts as we. And
Ben, what I see with business owners inside BBB and challenge members and those people is that they've written a really good piece of content. They've shared it once, they've shared it twice, but manually having to share it or reminding themselves to share that post it gets harder. It gets harder and harder for people to do. And I know, I mean, we've all been there. We've all written that blog post and gone, that was awesome. That was the best piece I've ever written in my whole entire life. And then 10 days later, it's like, what was that blog post again? What did I write?
It's scarily easy to do.
Yep.
Non-technical issue number 1, my dog, as I prophesied, is asking to come out. Give me 2 seconds.
Not a problem.
Right, ever the professional here. Right?
No, it's all good.
Okay, but yes, you're absolutely right, and it's so easy and obvious that we would tweet about it or do something on the first day of publishing. That's not helping that. In the first day, and most people do that bit, which is great. We know we should be doing something on social media and tweeting about it on the first day that we've published the content. But the majority forget to do it after that point. They haven't got a strategy, essentially similar to the one that is on the screen now, that helps them really get the most value from it. And the value that we can find through this process is really achieved through this principle of drip marketing. And it's a really, really powerful approach that you've probably seen. If you haven't employed this yet with your blog strategy, you've probably seen drip marketing in a couple of different guises. So, webinars or online courses where they drip out content, course material over a number of weeks. There's also the bad players in this space. Those cold emails that you see, that's a drip marketing campaign as well. And those are not good versions of it, but at least it'll help you understand what it is. It's where the business owner is dripping content out gradually over a certain period of time in order to hopefully engage. Now, it pretty much falls flat in its face in that cold email sort of scenario, but we want to use it in an authentic way with our evergreen content, and it's perfectly primed.
Blogging challenge with what we're doing at the moment, guys, is literally giving everyone a tool and ideas each day. So we're dripping it out over 30 days to make you actually stay on track.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. And so it's sort of getting into instilling that idea of the power, I guess, of drip marketing through that challenge, which is great, because once you've understood, it's one of those cumulative sort of effects that you'll start seeing just by dripping it out. And there's reasons why we do that. Number one, we want to make sure that we're getting our content in front of someone who might not be following us today, because that's the reality of social media. Hopefully, your follower count is going up every day, and that means that you're going to have someone following you tomorrow that wasn't following you today. So even though you did that first tweet when you published that blog post today, if you forget to do any follow-up tweets over the next few months, you're missing out on an opportunity to engage with tomorrow's and the following day's followers, which is, when you think of it just on that level, that's a wasted opportunity. Because if you've written something that is huge value, why would you not want to get it in front of them?
And
so
one of my
most
popular blog posts is on course marketing. And I got a comment yesterday, thank you for writing this blog post. I wrote it 6 months ago. I'm like, MISSINGLETTR must have tweeted that out for me.
Yeah, I get that as well, and it's a delight. It's that's one of those magical things where you think, because it reminds you that the person who's responded to you there has literally seen it fresh. In their mind, it's fresh, it's new. They've never seen that post before. And it's magical. It's like, wow, we've managed to get it in front of them at the right time, and that's fantastic. That's what we're trying to do. And so for the following similar reason, you have existing followers, so people who are following you today, that might have just missed you because we're all hugely busy people. We just flick through our Twitter feeds or our Facebook feeds, and quite often we miss sort of, a huge percentage of the content in those feeds. And of course, in Facebook's case, they're obviously optimizing what is shown in that feed in the first place. So it just might not be, at the top. It might be, third down. So you might just miss it. So by dripping something out in a few weeks, you increase your chances that your existing follower base are going to see it as well. And the other one as well, just irrespective of whether they're following you already or not, it's that opportunity cost side of things as well, where, perhaps in that example you gave there, Linda, he might have actually, or he or she may have actually already been following you. But for whatever reason, when you first shared it, it just didn't make any sense to them because it wasn't right for them at that time. They weren't ready to consume that content. It didn't mean anything to them. But funnily enough, when you do it a year later, they're suddenly now in that headspace and they go, oh, hang on, actually, that course material or that topic that you're talking about suddenly now resonates.
And it's not going to resonate with your audience, guys, until it's the right time for them to read it. And we can't make that decision for them. We've just got to keep sharing it so it's available to them when they need it.
Exactly. And that's why we do drip marketing. So that's a really, really important thing just to understand, because there's no, again, it comes back to my very, very first point. Just because there's an automation tool out there doesn't mean you should be using it. Now, I would obviously advocate that MISSINGLETTR should be used in all cases, but I always want people to understand why they're doing it and what the value that MISSINGLETR is adding before you then start using it. And this slide here really is what it's all about. It's the power behind a drip marketing campaign, and that's everything sort of stems from there. But as with everything, we need to make sure that we're doing these things in the right way. So just flipping back up 3 slides, the goal we have here on a very high level of writing the great content, blog posts, creating some really cool optimized social content, and then dripping out gradually, that's a great thing. But if we're not doing it in the right way, that we can also trip up there as well. Now, MISSINGLETR helps you in these regards. It helps you, well, it produces content that meets these standards to start with. And
especially with the changes in Twitter and Facebook recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really topical thing, isn't it?
I must say the changes in Twitter and all I went is thank God.
it's funny, isn't it? It's funnily enough, I mean, just as a jumping off point, I think that the changes that Twitter and Facebook are bringing through on policies, I think is an opportunity, is a real opportunity, because really what they're doing is they're trying to get rid of the bad actors and help people become better citizens in the social landscape. And that's what we're trying to do, and that's what they're trying to help the masses do.
Either of it. It's just a case of learning the system and learning to, be, not that I like the word authentic, it's not my favorite word because it's a buzzword that everyone uses, but be you as a business owner instead of being you as, it's very easy to spam in business.
And just because you can spam doesn't mean you should be spamming.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very easy to spam, and it's very easy to fall into the trap of spamming because I'm so excited about this and I just got to share it everywhere. And then, I forgot to share it, so therefore I'm going to share it everywhere again. It's about putting that strategy in place. And that's where MISSINGLETR was definitely safer. And so what happened, Ben, when Twitter announced its changes, I turned every share to Twitter off apart from MISSINGLETR because I knew MISSINGLETR had us covered. So I just went every other platform. Awesome. I'm not automating it can until I get my head around this new system. That is out. This is in, and I just turned all the other automation off. The only thing that we relied on was MISSINGLETR for that period of time. In
MISSINGLETR we trust. I appreciate you
there you go.
trusting us. But yeah, I mean it's something that we obviously take very seriously because we built the whole product in order to be one of those trustable or trusting actors within the space. We wanted to make sure that people weren't too easily then falling into the trap of spamming. And so, it's so important to sort of follow the rules, adhere to them, but also, a big part of what we do is to sort of help our customers sort of educate themselves on why they're doing certain things so they, so separate from MISSINGLETR, they can continue to be, well regarded in their spaces and not, as you say, fall into those traps. Easily done. So yeah, just when it comes to writing that both the long form content, I guess, but also the social content as well. Just remember these things. We want it to, and by the way, I normally use the word authentic at this, so thanks very much. I can't say that now. I'm gonna have to address my thesaurus in my head and see if I can come up with another word. But
email marketing space in Australia at the moment, and I think in the States is about the same. Let's just all be authentic, and it's like, no, let's just be real.
But is real any different from authentic?
I don't know. Well, I turn around and say to people about these webinars, it's a no fluff approach. We're straight into it. There's no 20 minutes of, here is why we're so great. It's straight into knowledge and tips. So it's the same thing. I don't want to spend 20 minutes talking about it. I just want to be who I am. And that's what I want our business owners to be, is be who you are in this process. Be who you are, because you is the point of difference your clients will buy time and time again. No one else.
Yeah, let that personality come through, or decide upon what that personality should be.
It's going to be, yep.
For that brand, because it might start off being you, the founder, the sole proprietor of the business, and therefore it's a direct translation of your personality. But as businesses grow, so does the team, and so it then becomes a shared personality. Then you get the questions around core values and everything else. But it still comes down to, as you say, being
real.
Being real,
exactly.
Real.
Yourself. Yeah.
There you go. So lovely segue into the first point here. Lovely segue. So with the content we're trying to share in let's go back to that first point here, in this optimized social content bit, it's got to be relevant and meaningful. So just because you've sliced it into social bite-sized bit of text doesn't mean it's just because you've met the character count of Twitter doesn't mean it's going to be worth sharing. Make sure it's actually relevant and meaningful. Not just actually for the social content, but for the blog post as well.
Oh, yeah.
All of this, as simple as this might be in terms of process and steps, it's completely pointless if you're rushing through and creating content both at the blog level and at the social level that is just poorly thought out, not well structured, irrelevant, or just difficult for people to decipher, to understand what it actually relates to.
And when they click on your tweet or the information or your Facebook post or your LinkedIn post that you're sharing, they're going to want to land on the same content. So if you pick the one quote that doesn't represent the rest of the article,
yes, exactly,
it's not going to help you.
Yeah. So again, we want to make sure we're doing that properly. And this is where this is authentic alert. This is where I'd normally use the word authentic. But we're doing that because we want to build trust, not erode it with our audience. And one of the points that's often not spoken about here is that, I suppose it's your point a little bit there, Linda, about it's sometimes easy to spam if we're not careful. Spamming aside, social platforms for businesses, but I suppose for personal individuals as well, it has the risk that if we don't do it properly, actually it's really easy for us to actually lose that trust and respect from our peers and a potential audience and everyone else. So actually, just because you can, tweet about something or share something, doesn't mean you should. So again, if we're going to employ some sort of strategy here where we create content and then repeat and drip it out over time, we really want to make sure that actually the content that we're sharing is relevant and meaningful, but in a way that actually, is trustworthy, that makes sense, because it's the stakes are too high. Even though there's a huge audience out there for you to sort of be attracting, why risk turning away one or two people and losing that repeat business the next time? So we really want to make sure that we're building that trust, not eroding it. And then back to the point again, we want to make sure that we're doing this consistently, but not too frequently. So again, just because we can doesn't mean we should. We want to be consistent, but we don't want to be too consistent.
Exactly.
Coming up with a great bit of long form content with some really great optimized social content with images and with hashtags that are really well researched and all that sort of stuff, but then doing it 4 times a day and tweeting it out, the same message out 4 times a day. I mean, apart from being blocked by Twitter, you're just like, well, why bother? You're suddenly now you're going to lose the trust of your audience, and it's going to become a point where it's going to be diminishing returns and in fact negative returns, because you're just going to be seen to be spamming. So we want to make sure that we're basing our strategy on these core pillars, and that we're then creating content around these. And the good news is, as I mentioned before, that MISSINGLETTR is designed to do all of this for you.
Exactly.
So for those that are coming to us fresh, who haven't tried it out yet, what is it that MISSINGLETTR does? Well, we know now, hopefully, what Evergreen is. We know what drip campaigns are. We know why we should be doing them. And we know some of the pitfalls that we want to try and avoid. MISSINGLETTR, what it does is it's essentially monitoring your website in the background silently. So you can just get on with whatever your core business is and write that next blog post. When you next publish the blog post, whether it's WordPress, Medium, whatever the platform might be, we detect that automatically, and we will run some clever, so our technology runs some clever algorithms over your long form content, and it's looking for interesting quotes, phrases, snippets that we think might read quite well in the social sort of space. We extract images, if you've had any included in the blog post, and we also create speech bubble style images for you based on your own extracted content, fully branded based on your own colors, font, layouts, all sorts of other bits and bobs. And we also recommend hashtags for you as well. And so we essentially create a whole suite of and sequence of social content that we spread out over 12 months. So essentially you get a ready-made 12-month drip campaign that is ready for you to review. So within on average, half an hour or so of you publishing your blog post, you will get an email. Is it half an hour still?
I don't even think it's taken half an hour.
Sometimes it's less.
Yeah, sometimes I'm getting within moments of it being published.
Actually, out in Australia, you may be better served. I mean, you are one of probably our second or third, well, in our top 4, certainly, markets. But because we're UK-based, actually, a little hack here for you guys. It's not even a hack, it's just a nice circumstance of living in Australia. Because you're there, actually, you might get a better sort of place in the queue, because the campaign generation part is based on a queue, and I'm getting down in the weeds here, but depending on how busy our queue is at the time, you will get it anywhere from sort of 0 minutes to sort of 30 minutes, somewhere in between. And so you'll get an email from us with an invite to review the campaign that we've created for you, and to review all of that content. And the content that we've created is taking into mind these things here. We want it to be trustworthy, relevant and meaningful, and it's relevant and meaningful because we're basing the content on your long form content. So we're not making up any wording for you. We're literally extracting it from your content.
Exactly.
And it does all of that sort of stuff for you. And it's all there now for you to review and tweak. So nothing is sent out without your approval. You always get the chance to review. And as is often the case when you first start using a new platform, the first couple of times you approve a campaign, you may well take 10 minutes or so just to sort of familiarize yourself with the product and get to understand what you can and can't do. But quite often, and again, back me up or shoot me down here, Linda, please feel free to be honest.
We don't over time through them very quickly at all.
It should be a lot quicker.
No, I didn't approve 5 campaigns before jumping on the webinar today. No. No, guys, look, the quicker you get it, but there's also the quicker you trust Missing Letter to look at what it is that you're doing. Now, I said this from the very, very beginning when we first started with Missing Letter. I think it's almost 2 years ago now, Ben.
Wow. Is it really? Okay.
That I have a team of social writers, but Missing Letter still picks up stuff that we don't pick up within our blog posts as cues, as information. And we've most probably got lazy social writers now because we go, oh, I wonder what Missing Letter will pick up. We could use that for the men. We could use this. We could use that. And we use Missing Letter not only for Missing Letter, but we use it to create social graphics down the track as well, because Facebook-wise, I'm pedantic and I like my images to look in a certain way. And I love the quote bubbles, but everyone's using the quote bubbles on Facebook. So from my point of view, I'd much rather take it out, put it into a graphic design, brand it, and then share the same content using a social scheduler. So that's where I get a bit pedantic. But Ben's now got it. I think we can upload our own images to Missing Letter too. So if I was less lazy, I could do that.
But you're right. I mean, I guess that kind of ties in with the trust and the relevance.
Instagram that way too.
Sorry, with Instagram?
I use those same quotes to go to Instagram too.
Ah, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
great for Instagram content.
Good. That's a good point. That's a good use of it. And yes, in essence, you get a campaign for each blog post, but you also get some market or some media assets that Linda seems to be using really, really effectively there, that are yours then to use. Whether it's Instagram or just somewhere else on your website, you might want to put it back in with a lot of covers. Able to take the quote that we create as graphics and plonk them back into the original blog post.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but it could work, because I don't know about you, but I mean, when I write blog posts, I will focus on the text and then sort of publish and look back a year later and go, damn, that's a bit text heavy.
Yep.
And we forget to put graphics and things in there. So the media assets that Missing Letter creates can actually help you go back to that original post.
Highlight quotes. And if you could link it to click to tweet, how cool would that be?
That would be cool.
That would be really cool.
There is something in mind for that. So summertime, you will see something along those lines. So
summertime, so we'll freeze here. We'll freeze here when you get that out, because it's heading to winter here.
Okay, yes, I mean the winter. Sorry,
winter time for us, guys.
You'll have to correct me.
That's okay. We'll give you summertime.
Okay, cool. Why is my screen doing that? It thinks that I'm trying to.
We really did annoy the tech gods today, didn't we?
I know, we really, really, really have.
For those who were catching us late, my computer crashed. I am literally went and stole my husband's computer off his desk because he's away. To being able to do this, I've got to have a look at my computer after this. So we did offend some tech gods and we can't live stream, but we'll get this up into the group as I said, pretty quickly, straight afterwards, I won't even edit. I'll just put a raw file straight up into the group so everyone can catch up.
Rolling with it. I love it. Well, we're up and running regardless, so tech blogs or not, we are here. That's what it's all about.
Here in the webinar. So, guys, if you've got any questions, do ask. Do ask what it is. And, about blogging, guys, I hear this consistently, and part of the reason we brought the blogging challenge out was I have nothing to share. The reality of it is we should not assume as business owners that our customers know our industry, because it's really, really easy to do that, to go, well, everyone, and Mark, I'm going to use you as an example because, everyone knows about FPOS transactions and how it all works, so that, I'm only servicing the machine in particular in that one, or I'm giving them the opportunity to cut down their fees. No, when can they use FPOS within their business is a great topic, and, moments in time that, different angles that you might use this functionality within your business might be there, and the top 10 most commonly asked questions regarding using FPOS, and is it even? And I would even run them through a questionnaire of, is it even right for my business? Then, if you're not seeing next week's webinar, we're doing quizzes, how to use quizzes in marketing with some really cool quiz technology.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? When you start thinking about it, there's a whole bunch of different approaches you can take to coming up with just titles for blog posts.
Ask your audience what they want.
Yeah, it's.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Or in fact, here's another one. I mean, do a survey, which might be part of what you're talking about there, but do a survey offline with some of your customers, and then use the results as an excuse to relay some research and some findings, some insights back to your audience to say, 5 out of 10 people prefer this FPOS over this one, or find this one,
vice versa,
etc.
There you go, Mark. You just got your own personalized blogging strategy.
Cool. Okay, so. Yeah, that's pretty much the extent of the slides here, and it's getting us from just the discipline about thinking about what we really should be doing and how we should be approaching the thinking and the strategy behind each blog post, and what we then do with it afterwards. What I think I will do now, unless you have a better idea, Linda, is show
everyone.
Let's just do a little demo. Okay. So can you see my screen? It should still be.
I can see your screen. Yes.
Cool. Okay. So, tech gods being tech gods, as I discovered with Linda before we went live, it looks like my guys pushed out what is actually quite a good update. I'll explain the update to justify it. Before I went to bed, and it's now 2 a.m. So there is nothing they can do to fix it now. So we're just going to have to roll with it. But essentially, there's a little glitch with the quote bubbles that I'm going to show you in a minute. Because we've rolled out some further optimizations for them, which I'll talk you through in a minute.
Yay! New stuff.
So let's bear with that. Okay, so let's look at. So here we have a list of campaigns. I'm not going to give you a massive overview of the entire system because there is a huge amount of customizations that you can do. I mean, if you just look at the settings section here, there's a huge amount of things that you can now do that has grown quite extensively over the last year, certainly. Things like tweaking the length or duration, and also the frequency of your campaigns.
Yes.
This is something that's actually one of the newest features. You would have noticed in the presentation that I spoke about a 12-month campaign, and that's actually the default campaign length that you get with a campaign in MISSINGLETR. But actually, you can now completely customize that. So if you know that you just want something to last for 4 years instead of 12 months, or perhaps something much shorter, as perhaps a 2-week blast or a 6 month.
We have press releases.
You can now do that.
We use MISSINGLETR to share the press releases out, and lots of our press releases are time sensitive. So 2 weeks is all we need.
Perfect. So you can now create a press release schedule and maybe just a normal blog post schedule, and one might be 12 months, and the press release one might be a few months. So you can now do that. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in here. What time of the day do you want things to go out? Do you want to use your own URL shortener? So what I would suggest is have a look through these when you go through. It's all nicely worded, and there's help text and everything else to help you along. But have a look through, because it will help you personalize the experience and get the most out of it.
And spend your time setting up, guys, for the brand. It's really important to spend your time setting up, because that 10% of the time you'll actually spend in setting up will basically relate to the success of your campaign.
And also, not just the fact that it's just because this is a set it and forget it kind of tool. It's both brilliant and bad if you don't think about it properly. So the fact that you can approve a campaign and then forget about it, knowing that for the next 12 months it's going to be marketed, for that very reason, you just should be doing what Linda's saying there, which is review your settings and your branding options and everything else, because that's your time to do it, before you approve the campaign. Because once you've approved it, it's going to go out. Yeah. Now, you can pause a campaign, I should add. So you can pause it, change the settings, and then reactivate it. So it's all fine, but why go through that? Get it done right first.
That's a lot of work.
It's all work. We don't want work. We want efficiency and time to just sort of relax and focus on the value end of things. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just pick a campaign. I'm literally going to just show you the campaign review process, and to show you what a campaign looks like, so that we can work from there. So I've selected a campaign, and this is the first page that you will go to if you click the link from the email that we send you for each blog post that you publish.
Yep.
So this will start to look familiar when you start using the product. Our campaign review process is broken down currently into 3 stages. Number 1, hashtags. 2, review the content, which is really the main bulk of the content. And then finally, we have a couple of approval options, like do we have a hard stop date, and where we finally approve and activate the campaign. So with the hashtags, we will recommend hashtags based on keyword density, so on a quite basic level. Are there high value words that we are seeing you use quite often here? But we also look at topics that they relate to and a few other sort of clever things as well. And we'll give them a proprietary score out of 5, which is based on a bit of past performance on the kind of social engagement it can get. The operative word here. Everyone's audiences are different from someone else's, even though they might be using the exact same hashtags. You've still got to be writing meaningful, value-driven content.
Guys, the other thing that with the hashtag component, when you're in your settings component, if you've set up your categories for your blogs that happen to relate to keywords that are going to be for your business, you can tick that it actually uses those categories to come in as your hashtags as well, which is a really huge thing. So with Clive, who's a business coach, we've set all of his categories up. If one's about business planning, then, oh my God, it goes into the business planning category, and then the hashtag's coming across for us straight away. Yeah,
which is really powerful, which is therefore something that you can set at the blog level, WordPress or whatever it is.
That's why I said set your
settings. Yeah, exactly. Check it out first. But there's also, I think it's in
default hashtags.
Yeah, default hashtags in. You know this better than I.
I think it's in the website settings, details. Is it or campaigns?
Right, I'm gonna have to check it out now.
I can't remember now.
No.
But I asked for it and you gave it to me, so I was happy.
Campaign settings. So yes, you will find a lot of these. Linda is fantastic, and we have you are equally brilliant, but also no different from a lot of our community, which is wonderful. A wonderful thing about our community that we have so many people who are using us daily that we have so many great ideas for things that we can be doing to make your lives even easier. So we always implore you to click the little button here, get in touch with our lovely support team.
Definitely.
And give us an idea. Let us know what we can do to help make it even easier. But as we were alluding to here, along with the option that Linda mentioned there, where it can pull hashtags directly from WordPress or whatever it might be, you can also add default ones here. So if you're always talking about marketing or whatever it might be, add them here. And you'll always have the opportunity to remove them on a campaign-by-campaign basis. But 9 times out of 10, they're there ready for you to go. So
in Media Connections ones, we have a default press release hashtag.
Oh, cool.
Set against it, because we want to alert the journalist it's a press release every time it comes out.
Cool.
And in BBB, we've got a hashtag that we use called Learn, Connect, Network, and Do. And that's there as a default. Now, it doesn't go out with every campaign, but if we haven't got any other hashtags, it's going out.
Like it, it's just a small little thing, but it helps keep you honest and keeps you, stops you from forgetting that meaningful hashtag. But it also means that you don't have to keep entering.
Saves copy and pasting.
Totally. So whatever those hashtags are, they will be shown here. Combination of ones we've worked out dynamically for that individual blog post, combined with any default ones you've added, combined with any that we've picked out from WordPress if you've activated that option. And really, you just need to review. We generally recommend between 1 and 3, but it really depends on what you think works best.
Ben, can we show our members what would happen if we added our own hashtag and the calculations that it actually runs through? Because I think that's pretty powerful.
So So you can enter a manual one here. So we enter it, and it's going to calculate popularity, which is,
and of course,
again,
he picked a really popular one, didn't he?
I know.
What I wanted to show you guys is if it's not so popular in hashtags, the colours, the bars won't all
Well,
light
let's hope that this doesn't
go.
break the system.
If this ranks highly, this is going to be so funny. So it's working, it's calculating in the background.
There
and
we go.
See
Okay.
now, there's no lights. There's no, as I call it, there's no lights coming. Yeah, the lights are not on. So maybe you need to reconsider that hashtag. Maybe you put a typo in it, because that happens. And look at the options when you're putting that hashtag in. But it's really powerful in relation to that. And if you're looking for hashtags, if you found that marketing or Facebook is really, really handy, the tool that I use, Ben, I don't know if you guys know it at all, it's mainly based for Instagram, but takes out the block ones as well, called Display Purposes. And you put a hashtag in, so you put the word marketing in, it comes up with a suggestion of 30 other hashtags. Yeah, I know, it's so awesome. Saves so much time. But it also helps you identify those hashtags, which also means that if these hashtags are popular as you're putting your missing letter campaign together, it's also popular for you to keyword write a blog post about in the future to put back in here.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, actually, I find hashtags really interesting, particularly in the ecosystem of Missing Letter, because it's, again, a microcosm of what it means to have a part of your business automated, because we can and we do recommend automatic hashtags for you, and that's great. We're saving you time. But when it comes down to it, there's only so much that a computer can do. So although we do have aspirations to make our hashtag suggestions even better, and we do intend to tap into resources like you're talking about there, Linda, where it can suggest other potential ones that you might want to consider when you think that you're already have marketing there. Even when you've got those in place, you still need to apply a bit of common sense. The human, we would always recommend, needs to be at least reviewing the list, because even though you might have plugged in marketing to that site you were talking about there, and it suggested 30 other ones that might be successful, the word might is really the key word there. And just looking back at what's worked in the past, but also you've got to take it with a pinch of salt. What's worked for other people might not work for you, and only you really know your audience the best. So try not to let automation for automation's sake sort of grey and take over from the fact that you actually don't need to be thinking, because we still want you to be considering what might be best for your audience. Use that gut instinct.
Exactly. And look at your hashtags. Because I know that we've had campaigns come up and I've gone, where the hell did that hashtag come from? And then you go back to the article and go, okay, well, it was mentioned a few times, but it relates nothing to the article. The word is mentioned, but the hashtags and the way that it's used is not going to relate. So you've got to look at that, guys, and look at where they are. And as I said, computers can only do, as you've said, Ben, computers can only do so much for you. You still have to, this is the being real for your audience bit. You're saving yourself time, but this is the being real bit. This is the bit where it has to be you.
Absolutely. And you'll get quicker as a human, you'll get to understand what works, what doesn't, as hashtags and everything else. And actually, when you're presented with something so easy to use like this, it hopefully will start your brain ticking and thinking, actually, maybe I can start experimenting. And that's a great, particularly in marketing, experimentation is really a powerful tool at our disposal. Start using some words that you think are relevant, yes, but that you haven't used before. See what effect you get, and maybe just maybe reuse those the next time. So when you see something here that you think maybe it isn't high value, but it's here, don't just trust it implicitly. Click delete, and
exactly.
You can get rid of it there. So
we won't be running with that one today.
We won't be running with that one. I think that's not maybe the best one. And you can also reorder as well. So this is less of an issue now that Twitter have a longer character count, but back in the 140 character days, man, that seems like an age ago now.
Like an eon ago now.
It does, doesn't it? There was restricted space, so we would only fit in the hashtags that we could on a tweet by tweet basis. So we would put them in, and we still do put them in on the order with which they are placed here. But obviously, with the character count being slightly large now, we pretty much can always fit in all of them. Assuming you put 1 to 3, but still put them in the right order just in case. That can be quite helpful. So let's assume we're happy with that. We're going to click through to the most important of the steps, which is the content review. And here we are essentially going to review the content that Missing Letter has created. So remember, we've created a 12-month campaign here. And that campaign is actually only made up of 9 posts. So we're going to send it out, or send the content out on day 0, day 3, 7, 14, and then it goes on all the way up to 365. And the gaps get longer as time goes on. And there's only 9 posts, but the beauty of that is that, A, we're not spamming, we are being respectful.
Yep.
We're trying to strike the balance between keeping something cycling over a longer period of time, but not being over spammy and over ambitious.
Yes.
But also remember, this is just one campaign. so hopefully you're publishing more than one blog post. And if you haven't, or if you're not, you've hopefully got some in the past that you have at your disposal. So I would like to think that you're going to approve more than one campaign. And if you're doing that, you're going to get natural crossover. You're going to get campaigns running in parallel.
And guys,
that's
when
the magic
set up with
really
Missing
starts
Letter,
happening.
it will bring in your past posts. It brings in your past posts when you set it up, to a certain extent.
Yes, it will bring in, yes. There's a technical limitation to how many we can pull in. But if you're ever not sure, when you sign up, just click this button here and ask our support team. But at any time, if there isn't a blog post that we pulled in that you want to have pulled in, or if you did a guest post on another site, you have this button up here, Add Blog Post, that you can click at any time, and just simply add the URL of the blog post, and that's it. We'll get you to, in the next page, we'll get you to confirm the title of that blog post, just to confirm that we have read the page properly, and then it's added to the queue, and then you'll get an email just like you would normally when the campaign is ready for you to review.
Can I give
super easy.
Everyone a tip on that one too? We did it. The other thing that you've got is you've got pages within your website that are evergreen that you want people coming to continually. So Media Connections case, our register page where we talk about all our membership options, we want people coming to regularly. So that gets copied and pasted into Missing Letter to create a campaign each time we update it. So when you're having a look at those pages, just because it's not a blog post, have a look at the pages on your website and go, do I want to keep bringing people back to this section? And is there enough content to share over 12 months?
Love it. Yeah, I mean, it's good point. I mean, we actually do have a bunch of people who don't have blogs, ironically, and they want to just market sales pages or e-commerce pages, product page. Each time a new product is listed.
I haven't thought of product yet.
We have a bunch of people in e-commerce, actually. Really works well. Yeah, totally. Tangent for another day, perhaps, but it can work. But again, you've got to ask yourself, just because you can, should you? So does it make sense for you to be marketing that commemorative plate for the royal wedding that's happening next week?
In 2 years' time, no.
In 2 years' time, perhaps not. Maybe it's something that should only be marketed for the next 2 weeks. So, think about whether the page you're trying to market really should be dripped out over a longer period of time. But if you think it's primed for that, absolutely. Missing Letter could be really, really powerful in helping you do that. So, as I mentioned, sort of 12 months, 9 posts. And so that's what you're going to review on this page. For each slot, day 0, day 3, day 7, etc., we're going to review that content. And that content is, pretty much text and an image. So if you imagine you're now going into Facebook or Twitter and you're posting a new message, you're basically going to be adding at least some text and then optionally an image to go with it. And that's, in essence, is what we're asking you to review here. Are you happy with the text that will go out, which is the bit I've just highlighted here? And are you happy with the image that we're going to attach with it? And that's the bit my mouse is hovering over here. And that's really the decision that you need to make. So we can start off with the text. Are we happy with that? If not, we can cycle through different suggestions. And by the way, some of these will be direct extracts of quotes like this, and others will use templates. So hot off the press, and then it puts the title there. And again, another lovely settings thing. If you go to content templates, you can override and create your own suite of content templates. Oh,
cool.
Oh, something you haven't seen, Linda.
I have done that, I know.
Woo! Okay. This doesn't often happen.
Doesn't often happen that I log into Missing Letter and I haven't seen
Love it.
Now I've got to go play
awesome. I'm that's a win for me. I'm happy that Linda has not seen something. I've caught her off guard. But yeah, really powerful. So we come up with a few basic templates for you, hot off the press, just published, new, and then the title, different permutations of that. But yeah, we really encourage you. Go into the settings, come up with your own templates, because it's coming back to that authenticity that you don't want me to use, which is,
I didn't say you can use it. I just don't like it.
I don't want to use it now. I feel it's in the back of my head now every time I use that word. But really, it does come back to being real, because if you just are looking at this thinking, man, people will just read this tweet and think, Linda or Ben, or whatever your name is, will never use that phrase "hot off the press." That's just so not Ben. If that's the case, don't get it out there. Don't let it go out there. Go to your settings, go to content templates, and change that template to something else, or create a whole suite of 10 other ones that are using your language, because we want and we should be aiming for any social content to be seen as a direct extension of your brand. It should feel joined up with the language, with the style, with the ethos that you're getting across on your website, on your brochures, on even your sort of physical touch points with your customers. It should all feel connected, right? So this is one of the ways that you can do it. Also, top tip, a great way of getting Missing Letter to work in your language. So if you use French or Spanish or Italian or whatever it might be, we will actually work with your language. We will pull out the content and you'll see your own content in your own language, which is great, but you will see this bit in English. So if you have a French blog or another language, go into your content settings and just replace these with your own language versions, and straight away you're set up for multi-languages, which is pretty cool.
Right.
So we cycle through, make sure we're happy with the text there. We'll just assume that this is the one we want. And then we make a decision on the image. Do we even want an image? Because sometimes just having text is fine. And in fact, we would encourage you to, every now and again, mix it up. Yeah, just have text. So if that's the case, click just text. And this particular post now, this day 0 post, is just going to be this content here with no image. And that's fine. That would be, we would encourage from time to time. If you alternatively want to use an image, we can click the use image one here, and it's going to default to using an image that we found from your blog post, if you had one. If you didn't, we would ask you to upload one. And even if we did, you can still upload one anyway by clicking this button here. And then thirdly, the third image option is to use one of our speech bubbles. So this will use it basically creates a dynamic speech bubble image branded to your style and specifications, with an extract from the quote here as well. And it's fully social optimized as well. So we will generate these images essentially at the point at which we send them out to your social networks for that social network. So they're small sort of tweaks, but from one to the other. But each social network does have slightly different perfect sort of optimal image dimensions. And we will make sure that the content fits in there, that it stretches where it needs to, and all those sorts of things. And this is the tech god bug number 1. We're rolling out some further optimizations around how we do that so that we can truly stretch these backgrounds, which does work when we send it to the social networks, but it looks like our team pushed something out last night that seems to have caused an issue here. So over the next 12 hours, this will be fixed. So by the time you actually come to look at this, it'll be fine, but this is not quite stretching in the way that it looks like it should be. So I do apologise for that.
I'm going to have to hurry us up because I actually have a 12:30 today. So I'm going to run from one to another. I know I'm being really, really painful.
No, but that's basically it.
Yep.
That's it. You're reviewing the content. Just to show you one last thing is with this text, you can also cycle through this one. So you can cycle through the text on here as well to make sure you're happy with the content in there. Once you're happy with all of this, click go. And it's now going to be marketing to your social
And that's how
accounts.
easy it is, guys. It does come out. And you will see it on the business pages. You'll see it, on their Twitter. You won't see it on the Facebook. But you'll see it on that. You'll see it on LinkedIn. You'll see it on a number of things. And you'll see members that you're already working with inside the BBB community using this tool, because we've had Ben on a few times now, and we love showing what Missing Letter can do and the new features that it has there. So I'd like to thank Ben for joining us again this week and showing us a little bit more behind the scenes and understanding how we can make more out of our blogs, especially considering it's now 3 a.m. in the morning over there.
Hey, my pleasure.